Hey everyone! Before we dive into today's powerful reflection on Psalm 27 and the timeless wisdom of Napoleon Hill, make sure you like this video, leave a comment with your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any future content that can truly transform your mindset and life. And don't forget to hit that notification bell to be the first to know whenever we upload something new and inspiring. Your support means the world and helps us keep bringing you content that empowers and uplifts. Now, let's get started. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the strength of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid? This opening line of Psalm 27 stands as one of the most powerful affirmations of inner certainty and spiritual confidence found in all of Scripture. David, surrounded by enemies and potential destruction, begins not with a complaint or a request, but with a declaration. He asserts that because his trust is rooted in God, his light, salvation, and strength, fear has no place in him. His confidence is not circumstantial, it is foundational. His clarity doesn't come from the absence of threats, but from the presence of God. In Napoleon Hill's philosophy, particularly in Think and Grow Rich, faith plays a similarly central role, not necessarily religious faith, but belief in the unseen, the yet to be realized. Hill describes faith as a state of mind that may be induced by auto-suggestion, pointing to the power of repeated affirmations and positive mental conditioning. For Hill, faith is not something we wait to feel, it is something we build, consciously and methodically. The mind must be trained to believe before the results appear. It is the engine of transformation, and without it, fear takes the wheel. There's a deep resonance here between David's spiritual faith and Hill's mental faith. David speaks to a confidence that cannot be shaken, because it is anchored in a power beyond himself. Hill, too, emphasizes that belief in oneself, and in one's purpose, is a force stronger than adversity. Fear, in both contexts, is a mental construct that collapses under the pressure of true faith. David asks rhetorically, "Whom shall I fear?" while Hill might phrase it, "What fear can stand against a definiteness of purpose fueled by belief?" This kind of inner conviction, whether born of spiritual trust or mental discipline, is the first and greatest weapon against failure, anxiety, and doubt. David doesn't eliminate external threats, he eliminates the power they have over him. Similarly, Hill teaches that success begins not with outer action, but with inner alignment. One must see oneself already victorious, already protected, already chosen, before the outer circumstances begin to shift. To internalize this principle, one must, as David did, declare the truth before it manifests. It requires a daily discipline of the mind. Just as David repeated the truth of God's protection, the modern mind must repeat truths about purpose, possibility, and power. Hill's technique of autosuggestion aligns with this. Affirm your vision, speak your confidence aloud, and act in alignment with the belief that what you desire is already on its way. Both David and Hill show us that faith is not the absence of fear, it is the mastery of it. It is not naive optimism but a focused, deliberate trust that transforms the inner world and eventually reshapes the outer one. In this sense, Psalm 27 verse 1 is not just a verse, it is a mindset. And it is one that Napoleon Hill, centuries later, would recognize as the beginning of all personal power. "Though an army encamp against me, my heart shall not fear. Though war rise against me, in this I will be confident." These words from Psalm 27 verse 3 are not just poetic, they are a battle cry of inner strength. David acknowledges the reality of opposition, of forces that rise with the intent to destroy or overwhelm, yet his response is striking, "My heart shall not fear." It's not that danger isn't real, it's that his heart has been conditioned to respond differently. This isn't passive hope. It's deliberate courage, born from a deep spiritual assurance. This mindset aligns powerfully with one of Napoleon Hill's cornerstone principles, persistence. In Think and Grow Rich, Hill describes persistence as the sustained effort necessary to induce faith and crystallize desire into concrete achievement. He warns that most people are stopped by temporary defeat. They give up at the first sign of resistance. But those who succeed, those who truly rise, are those who persist in the face of repeated setbacks. They press forward not because they are certain of smooth sailing, but because they are committed to finishing the race, no matter how rough the path becomes. David's vision in Psalm 27 reflects that same commitment. The encamped army is a metaphor not only for literal danger but for any force that seeks to paralyze us with fear, failure, betrayal, delay, criticism, poverty, sickness, or self-doubt. He sees them coming. He does not deny their existence. But he refuses to let his inner world mirror the chaos of the outer one. Confidence is not rooted in the absence of struggle, it is grown in the soil of struggle. This is the heart of persistence. Hill would say that this kind of resilience is built through habit, through continually showing up, thinking positively, and taking action even when there is no immediate reward. Persistence is an internal discipline, and it must be fed by definiteness of purpose, desire, faith, and the elimination of excuses. Without those elements, a person is likely to abandon their goal at the first sign of hardship. But with them, even the presence of an army, literal or symbolic, cannot deter the one who knows why they must go forward. David does not allow circumstances to decide his posture. He decides it in advance. "In this I will be confident," he says, not after the victory, but in the middle of the war. This speaks directly to Hill's idea that confidence must precede evidence. You must carry your own weather, so to speak. You must determine the state of your own mind and emotions, rather than letting them be dictated by conditions. True persistence is not merely enduring hardship, it is refusing to let hardship dictate your identity. When we consider the lives of those who have achieved great success, as Hill did in his research of hundreds of successful individuals, one quality rises again and again: they simply did not stop. They were told no thousands of times. They faced criticism, bankruptcy, public humiliation, rejection, and loss. But they acted like David. They saw the armies, felt the pressure, and still said, "In this, I will be confident." There is something almost sacred about that kind of persistence. It is not noisy or boastful. It does not always appear heroic. Sometimes, it looks like simply rising one more time after being knocked down. Sometimes, it means holding your ground while everything tries to push you backward. Sometimes, it means taking one quiet step in the right direction with no audience and no applause. But it always means refusing to be defined by opposition. In both Psalm 27 and Napoleon Hill's writings, persistence is a spiritual and psychological stand. It is the voice that says, "I was made for this. I have come too far to quit. I will not fear. I will not give up. I will outlast this storm." And in that refusal to yield, strength is born, victory is prepared, and character is forged. "One thing have I desired of the Lord, that will I seek after, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to behold the beauty of the Lord, and to inquire in his temple." With this verse, David distills his heart's yearning into a single, focused intention. He doesn't present a list of requests or scatter his attention across a range of desires. Instead, he declares with striking precision, "One thing I desire." In a world full of distractions, threats, and competing priorities, David's clarity is both rare and powerful. He has chosen what matters most to him, and he pursues it with unwavering dedication. Napoleon Hill, writing across the centuries from David, identifies this same principle as the cornerstone of all achievement: definiteness of purpose. He insists that no one succeeds without it. Definiteness of purpose, Hill writes, is the starting point of all achievement. It is the central organizing idea that gives life direction. Without a clear goal, energy is wasted, focus is scattered, and persistence eventually fades. Just as a magnifying glass focuses sunlight into a beam strong enough to ignite fire, so too does a definite purpose channel our mental and spiritual energy into unstoppable force. David's words are more than a poetic longing for nearness to God. They model what it means to live with a central aim, a core reason for being. In Hill's framework, this is not only spiritual but practical. The most successful individuals, those Hill studied and interviewed, did not leave their lives to chance. They defined what they wanted. They wrote it down. They obsessed over it. They sacrificed for it. And they filtered all their decisions through it. There is tremendous power in knowing exactly what you want and why you want it. Purpose becomes both compass and fuel. What is striking in both David and Hill is the discipline of focus. David does not merely say he desires one thing, he says, "That will I seek after." There is action, intentional pursuit, daily commitment. Hill echoes this necessity. Desire alone is not enough. It must be backed by definite plans, continuous effort, and faith. Purpose, in both views, must become the guiding narrative of your life, shaping what you pursue, what you reject, and how you respond to adversity. There's also a profound lesson here about the quality of the goal. David's desire is not merely for safety, success, or ease. It's to dwell, to behold, to inquire, to grow in the presence of something greater. His purpose is elevated, and as a result, his inner world is ordered. Hill, though focused on material achievement, also understood that goals without meaning lead to hollow victories. He warned that chasing money or status without a purpose rooted in values leads to dissatisfaction. True definiteness of purpose must resonate with your deepest convictions, otherwise, the motivation will not endure. To live with clarity of purpose is to say no to 1,000 distractions in order to say yes to one great calling. It is to wake each day with direction, even when the path is unclear. It is to measure opportunities not by their appeal, but by their alignment with your central aim. And it is to build a life that is not reactive but intentional. David's focus on one thing is a spiritual strategy that translates directly into success philosophy. It teaches us that peace, power, and progress come not from having many options, but from knowing what truly matters. Clarity doesn't limit us, it frees us. It removes confusion. It empowers decisions. It sharpens identity. And it gives us the strength to continue, because we are no longer asking ourselves what we're here for. We already know. In the union of David's ancient prayer and Hill's modern wisdom, we find the same truth. The person who knows what they seek and pursues it daily will not be easily shaken. In a chaotic world, such clarity is not just an advantage, it is a superpower. And now shall mine head be lifted up above mine enemies round about me. Therefore will I offer in his tabernacle sacrifices of joy. I will sing, yea, I will sing praises unto the Lord. These words mark a turning point in David's declaration, not because his external situation has changed, but because his internal vision has shifted. Surrounded by enemies, he doesn't speak from the valley, he envisions himself already standing above it. His head is lifted up, not merely in pride, but in perspective. He sees the triumph before it arrives. He celebrates before the battle is over. He visualizes the outcome, and in doing so, he aligns his inner world with the result he believes will come. This moment in Psalm 27 is a masterclass in what Napoleon Hill later describes as positive visualization, the process of seeing with the mind what has not yet materialized in the physical world. Hill teaches that the imagination, especially when combined with faith and emotion, is a tool of immense creative power. Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve, he wrote. In that light, David is not simply being hopeful, he is engaging in a mental and spiritual exercise that sets the conditions for victory. Hill emphasized the power of vividly imagining success, not just intellectually, but emotionally, sensorily, as if the event had already occurred. To imagine oneself overcoming the odds, delivering the speech, completing the project, or standing triumphant, triggers deep neurological and spiritual responses. It creates expectation. And expectation influences behavior. David, in this verse, is not reacting to success, he is pre-living it. His praise is anticipatory, not retrospective. That's a profound difference. Most people wait to feel joy until the circumstances justify it. But those who lead and overcome, whether spiritually, artistically, or economically, understand that the inner climate must change first. David's lifting of his head is a symbol. He is refusing to be defined by the threats around him. He sees himself not as a man surrounded by enemies, but as a man already rising above them. This change in posture is not delusional, it is foundational. Hill would say this is exactly what separates the dreamer from the achiever, the ability to act and feel in advance of the external reward. To condition the mind to victory until it becomes natural, until it shapes choices, conversations, posture, resilience, and performance. The act of offering sacrifices of joy is also significant. Joy, here, is a sacrifice, something offered deliberately, even when it might not come easily. It's a choice. David doesn't wait for the battle to be won before celebrating. He sings. He praises. He makes music in the presence of threat. This is perhaps one of the most radical acts of spiritual and mental defiance in the face of fear, to choose joy as a strategy, not a reaction. Hill would call this a mindset of abundance. It's not just optimism. It's the conditioning of the subconscious mind toward success and gratitude, so thoroughly that external circumstances begin to bend in response to the dominant inner belief. Visualization, as both David and Hill show, is not passive daydreaming. It is intentional inner rehearsal. It is the willful painting of a new reality on the canvas of the mind, colored with belief, guided by desire, and sealed with praise. This mental image, repeated with conviction, becomes a blueprint the universe cannot ignore. David's lifted head, his confident declaration, and his joyful offering all arise from a place of vision, a vision not yet visible to others, but already real to him. And that's the key. To live by the invisible image you carry in your soul, rather than by the visible opposition around you, is to become unshakable. That is the secret of kings, of prophets, of creators, and of all who have shaped history. In this way, Psalm 27 verse 6 is not merely a spiritual affirmation, it is a strategic mental posture. It is the act of choosing the image of victory and walking in it until the world catches up. Wait on the Lord, Be of good courage, and he shall strengthen thine heart. Wait, I say, on the Lord. These final words of Psalm 27 do not resolve with external victory or visible change. Instead, they settle into the interior realm, the heart, where the greatest battles are fought and the greatest victories are won. David does not end this psalm with conquest but with a call to inner mastery. He speaks not to his enemies, but to himself. The command is clear: wait. Be strong. Let your heart be fortified. These are the disciplines of patience, of emotional regulation, of choosing peace over panic. And they form the quiet bedrock of wisdom. This emphasis on inner control speaks directly to one of Napoleon Hill's most essential principles: self-mastery, especially emotional self-mastery. Hill understood that the greatest barriers to success are often not external events, but internal reactions. Fear, anger, impatience, doubt, these emotions, when left unmanaged, can sabotage even the most brilliant plans. You have absolute control over just one thing, Hill wrote: your thoughts. This divine prerogative is the sole means by which you may control your destiny. David's words echo this truth. To wait with courage is not weakness, it is power restrained, emotion governed, will disciplined. Waiting, in the biblical sense, is not passive resignation. It is the active discipline of hope, the strength to remain steady when nothing around you affirms your progress. In the economy of spiritual maturity, and in Hill's view of success, this is where most people falter. They begin with vision, with enthusiasm, with prayer or goal setting, but the delay between seed and harvest shakes them. Impatience creeps in. Doubt takes root. And soon the emotional storm within is stronger than any obstacle outside. David, however, speaks differently. He commands himself to wait, not once, but twice. Repetition is the language of inner training. Wait, I say, because the heart forgets. Because the emotions waver. Because courage, if not reinforced, slips away. Hill taught that every strong personality is formed by repeated thought patterns, habits of mind forged like steel. Emotional maturity, then, is not a natural trait. It is a practiced response, a learned resistance to chaos. In Hill's philosophy, the ability to maintain calm under pressure is one of the defining marks of leadership. He observed that successful people are rarely those who react impulsively. They are the ones who, like David, can pause, breathe, and recenter themselves in the face of uncertainty. It's not that they lack emotion, it's that they direct emotion with purpose. Fear is transformed into alertness. Frustration becomes fuel. Impatience is softened into strategic timing. David's encouragement to be of good courage is an emotional commandment, not a feeling. Courage, in this context, is not the absence of fear, it is the deliberate choice to move through it without letting it take control. And the reward? He shall strengthen your heart. Strength does not descend randomly. It comes to the one who waits, the one who masters himself. Hill would agree, strength, whether mental or emotional, is cultivated in the furnace of resistance. It is built through discipline and decision, not through ease. The modern world tells us that waiting is weakness, that action is everything. But Psalm 27 verse 14 reveals a deeper truth. The strongest people are not always the fastest movers, but the steadiest hearts. Those who wait with conviction, who restrain themselves when every part of them wants to escape discomfort, who can stand still when the impulse is to run, these are the ones who endure. These are the ones whose strength is real. Hill called this quality emotional control. David called it courage while waiting. But the wisdom is the same. Mastery over self is the first mastery. And the heart, when strengthened by waiting and grounded in purpose, becomes unshakable. It becomes the kind of heart that can lead, create, build, and bless others. In the stillness David describes, and in the emotional clarity Hill demanded, we find the same call: to rise above reaction, to live above impulse, and to let inner strength become the architect of outer change. Psalm 27, there is a remarkable movement, not just of thought, but of spirit. David begins with bold declarations of trust. The Lord is my light and my salvation, whom shall I fear? These are not words spoken from the absence of adversity, but from the midst of it. He is not hiding from his enemies, he acknowledges their presence, yet he declares his stance with unshaken faith. And from the first line to the last, the psalm becomes an unfolding testament to a life not frozen by fear, but mobilized by faith. This entire psalm models the principle that Napoleon Hill saw as essential for success in any pursuit: faith must lead to action. Belief, by itself, is not enough, it must be translated into movement. Hill observed that faith is the only known antidote for failure. But he was quick to add that faith, to be powerful, must be applied. You must act on it. You must move in the direction of your belief, even when the evidence is invisible. David lives this principle line by line. He speaks confidently, he waits patiently, and he seeks persistently, but at no point does he stand still in despair. His faith fuels movement. When David says, "One thing I desire, that will I seek after," it reveals more than longing, it reveals a decision to pursue. Desire leads to seeking. That is faith in motion. Hill taught that desire is the starting point of all achievement, but only when joined with definite plans and consistent effort. Faith, in this context, becomes a bridge between vision and outcome. David believes that God is his light, and so he walks through darkness. He believes he will see goodness, and so he keeps his eyes open for it. He believes he is protected, and so he does not retreat. His life becomes a living enactment of the belief he proclaims. What's striking in both Hill's writings and David's psalm is that neither calls for blind optimism. Faith does not ignore problems, it transcends them. David names his fears. He describes being surrounded. He acknowledges slander and betrayal. But each challenge is met with a higher response. Though war rises against me, in this I will be confident. Even if my mother and father forsake me, the Lord will receive me. This is not wishful thinking, it is faith forged through action, through continual trust backed by continual steps. Hill insists that action cures fear. That paralysis is often a result not of the threat itself, but of inaction in the face of it. Faith without action is like fire without fuel. It cannot sustain. David knew this long before the modern self-help movement ever existed. His psalms are not passive devotions, they are training grounds for inner strength, spoken out loud to build courage, and lived out daily in the face of enemies. His declarations become direction. His words become will. And his belief becomes behavior. When David says, "I had fainted, unless I had believed to see the goodness of the Lord," he is revealing the internal mechanism of endurance, belief in forward movement. He did not simply wait for goodness to arrive, he believed in it, and lived as though it would come. This is the kind of inner posture that Hill taught entrepreneurs and leaders to cultivate, unwavering expectation, followed by definitive steps, even when nothing visible supports your choice. It's the mindset that says, "I don't wait until things look possible, I act because I know they are." The psalm ends where it began, with a call to courage. Wait on the Lord, be of good courage. Wait, I say, on the Lord. The waiting here is not withdrawal, it is the courageous choice to stay committed to the vision, to the journey, to the process, even when the timeline is unclear. And that courage is not theoretical. It must be demonstrated, through daily obedience, daily risk, daily forward motion. Hill believed that success comes to those who continue in faith, acting as though what they desire is already moving toward them. David lived this truth long before it became a modern formula. Ultimately, Psalm 27 is not just a spiritual song, it is a blueprint for anyone who desires to build a life of strength, peace, and victory. It shows us that fear is real, but it can be overcome. That faith is powerful, but it must be lived. And that courage is not the absence of struggle, but the decision to keep walking anyway. In this fusion of ancient wisdom and modern insight, one truth stands tall. Those who act with faith shape their world, not just in spirit, but in reality. So, did you like this powerful reflection on Psalm 27 and Napoleon Hill's teachings? If this content touched you, don't forget to like it, share it with anyone who needs to hear this message, and comment below with your impressions or questions. Oh, and if you're not subscribed yet, take the opportunity to subscribe to the channel and activate the bell to stay up to date with everything that's coming. Thank you very much for being with me this far. Until the next video.